So thank you again for joining today, and welcome to Introduction to Augmented Reality with Artivive. I'm Francesca Albrezzi, and if you haven't had a chance to yet, I'd ask that you just spend 30 seconds on our welcome survey, which I'm going to drop in the chat right now, and also you'll find today's slides. And while you're doing that, let me introduce myself. So I'm Francesca Albrezzi, Dr. Francesca Albrezzi. I am a digital research consultant for the Office of Advanced Research Computing at UCLA, and I also work very closely with IDRI. I basically support faculty digital research needs across campus. I lecture in the Digital Humanities program and in the Department of World Arts and Cultures. And I did my dissertation on extended reality technologies in museums and cultural heritage spaces. My background includes working at the Getty Research Institute, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and the Smithsonian, to name a few. And really, what I've been brought on to do is help to expand the extended reality workshops and resources that we offer at IDRI. So if you have any questions or things that you would like to learn, please do let me know. We hope to really support what our faculty needs on campus. I also want to mention that today's workshop is brand new. So that's exciting. And I don't think we'll take the whole 2 hours. Depending on how smoothly things go, we may even finish under an hour. But we'll find out, and at least we have some wiggle room there, and we'll have plenty of room for discussion if there's questions. At this point, I am going to turn off my camera so that we can focus on the slides. So extended reality technologies today offer a spectrum of experiences on a reality virtuality continuum, as proposed by Paul Milgram and his team. And I won't go much into this breakdown today because I've covered it in past workshops, but I just want to quickly orient us to where we'll be working on this spectrum today in the area of mixed reality. I'm a visual learner, so I find this second illustration of the visual continuum a bit clearer and more explicit. You can see here when we talk about reality, right? It's as we know it. As we move into augmented reality, we start to see virtual components being layered over the reality that we know. Augmented virtuality is when we tend to think of real elements being brought into virtual worlds. So we'll look more closely at those distinctions in a second. And then finally, there's fully virtual environments that are completely computer generated. So in that middle section where we're not talking about a fully virtual environment, immersive or otherwise, then we're talking about either a form of augmented reality or augmented virtuality. We tend to distinguish between the two thusly. So augmented reality is layering 2D or 3D objects onto the real world. So think of Pokemon Go, that AR app that was such a craze a couple years ago, or windowed reality as seen through a mobile phone camera screen or heads-up display, so HUDs, or projection mapping and soundscapes. That would also be considered augmented reality to some degree. Also, in terms of augmented virtuality, or AV, which is not to be confused with audiovisual, we see the layering of real-world elements into a virtual environment. So things like annotations, green screen, or motion capture is what we're talking about when we're talking about augmented virtuality. And this is, like I said, not to be confused with AV or audiovisual. Let me just make my screen a little bit bigger here so you can see everything. So again, for the visual learners in the room, this is one on the left or this one on the left is one of the earliest AR artworks, which I'll talk about more in a minute, but you can see that it's a 3D model of a golden cow, and it's represented or layered into physical space using this tablet that she's holding. And I'm sure you're all likely familiar with the breakthroughs that James Cameron made in terms of motion capture in his film Avatar. So these markers on their faces that you can see here, and on their suits, right, the special suits that they're wearing, they allow for the computer vision programs to accurately track and trace their body and facial expressions so that computer-generated imagery, more commonly known as CGI, could be mapped onto or combined to create the alien character depictions for the film. So in many cases, these XR, or extended reality experiences, are object-oriented in some way, especially when it comes to augmented reality. And the AR piece by Shaw consists of a pedestal and a virtual sculpture of a golden calf, which addresses notions of the virtual post-object by questioning the boundaries and intrinsic characteristics of the virtual and physical object. Visitors could look around at the calf from all sides by moving the monitor around the pedestal. And this installation is highly site-specific, actually. The reflections of the actual physical space were responsive in the design of the art piece. So depending on how the light and angles reflected using the pad, users could almost see their own image reflected on the screen, which adds a doubling of the mirroring effect and thereby blurs the boundary between the real and virtual worlds. So this is just one sort of early example I wanted us to look at. But now we're most commonly experiencing AR through mobile devices. And AR technology has been adopted by a wide range of industries, such as games and education, medicine, engineering, design, and more. You may have already seen some AR apps out there which place objects in the real world and have them track and scale as the camera moves around. This can be done in a number of different ways, and the technology is improving constantly. So today I just want to mention three. First, image targets. This is the most basic form of augmented reality. It requires you to point your device at a printed out image. So you can see here, these are sort of QR codes that are printed out here. And once you've done that, the app can recognize those images, right? So using image recognition, and then produce a digital file in response. So based on the size, position, and orientation, the app can then determine where to place the virtual object and have it track as long as the image target is in view. And that's what we're going to be working on today with Artivive. But I also want to mention plane detection. If you have an augmented reality app that does not require image targets, it's most likely plane detection. This means that the app is identifying feature points in the space or in your environment. These are high contrast points of interest that the camera can see and recognize through the programming. So when you move around the camera, these feature points allow the app to calculate surfaces in the world, such as the floor or table or wall. It will create a large number of feature points and assign them to memory. So this means that you can track one area, move to the other side of the room, and then return, and the same feature point should still be there. So for example, in this picture, if this is out on my patio, I decide to set these Star Wars ships out here, and then I leave and go into my house and then come back out, they are going to stay because I have stabilized the app to note that this is where these objects should be visualized. So that's how plane detection works. And apps like Cubity are great for this. I'm going to quickly sort of pop into that and see if we can, there we go. And I want to offer just a brief personal example here, but first I just want to show you what Cubity is and what it can do. So it's an AI-powered interactive platform for 3D models from SketchUp files, and you can also combine it with Rivet. So it's a quite powerful tool that's also mobile. I'm just going to make this small so I can quickly bounce back and forth between my presentation and that. So here's a personal example of this type of augmented reality. In February of 2018, I presented an AR poster entitled "For Posterity and Pedagogy, Using 3D Models to Preserve Exhibitions" for the first forum of the Community Standards for 3D Preservation group. And the poster used a QR code, which you can see here. I know it's a little blurry, but people could walk past and scan this QR code with the Cubity app to open a 3D model that I made of an exhibition space at the Taiwan National Museum of Fine Arts, where I had curated a show on digital art. And using that Cubity app, the model was then layered into the real space and could be resized and navigated for users to get a sense of what the art exhibition looked like when it was installed. It could be experienced as both an interactive 3D model or as an AR model. So there was a flexibility there too, and I think it's much more dynamic and interactive than simply screenshotting examples of the model. People could actually sort of look around and interact with it themselves. And for those of you who may have joined us in the in-between, I'm just going to put the welcome survey and the slides in the chat so you can follow along if you're interested. So then finally, the third I want to mention is depth censoring. And this is the most advanced form of augmented reality and is only available on a few modern devices, really things that have LiDAR capability. So this is sort of a blending of LiDAR, less about augmented reality in terms of just the camera device, but this requires or takes advantage of mobile depth sensors. So it's not always LiDAR per se, but some version of depth sensor technology. And this is basically a camera which can see how far, or a sensor that can see how far things are from your current device. And in terms of augmented reality, this can mean almost instantaneous surface detection and occlusion. So occlusion is where a virtual object can go behind something in the real world. This is really only possible with depth censoring, and I'm just going to quickly show you from developer's site what this looks like, what I'm talking about here. So if we, when I just realized, I think I direct messaged the links to everybody, so let me put that in the general chat. There we go. So when we're talking about this technology, there we go, now the GIFs are showing. You can see that the cat looks like it's actually sitting on this cushion, and then sometimes it can go behind it. And same here, we're seeing that it scans the area and is able to sense what's in the space, and then the augmented reality layering responds to the shapes of what's in the room. So the snow looks like it's falling directly on the couch. And this is all done through mobile technology, right? So now we can operate these things through mobile technology and interact or layer onto our world. And this is what's becoming known as the metaverse. So the idea that on top of our current reality, there may ultimately be a digital reality that always exists. Okay, so we're going to be working with a set of tools that is based on the first of these types. And this is Artivive. So Artivive is an augmented reality tool or AR tool that allows artists to create new dimensions of art by linking physical art with digital art. And I really should say physical objects with digital objects, because you may use this in any kind of applications. But based on image recognition technology, the digital layer opens the doors to a whole new world of possibilities. Artists can take visitors on a journey in time and explain what lies behind the work, enhance the art with animations or digital layers, or show how the artworks were made. So I'm going to drop in the chat the link to the Artivive website, so you have access to it there. And before we sign up for things, I just want to quickly note who uses Artivive. So it's a growing community platform, and I just checked the stats. This number has actually gone way up. So there are now more than 50,000 artists creating artworks within Artivive, and it has been used in exhibitions in more than 75 countries. So for museums, exhibitions, galleries, and other art institutions, Artivive offers a new and innovative way for the audience to interact and experience art. As an artist or a student, you can register for free. And I should say, by student, that's also professors, anyone with an EDU account can register for free. And today we'll be signing up for artist accounts, just in case people don't have an EDU account. But really, you can sign up as either. With that free account, you'll be able to host up to 3 projects for an unlimited amount of time. And if you find you ultimately want to create more than 3 projects, there are single payment or monthly payment options available. So I'm going to drop the link into the chat for us to begin to get everyone registered, and just take the time now to sign up for an artist account. If you want to follow along, you can also just listen in today and then do this on your own time, whatever you prefer. So this is an example of the registration page, and you'll go to the Artists and Creatives Register for Free section and click there. And then you'll just go ahead and fill out this form, check that you're not a robot, and you should get an email in a few minutes. So while you're waiting for that registration to come through, I also want you to head over to canva.com to register for another free account. So Canva is a very helpful design platform for presentations and flyers, social media, and more. And today we're going to use it to help us build our AR experiences and see the results fairly quickly. You can really use any sort of platform that creates images or video. So if you prefer Photoshop or InDesign or anything like that, that's totally fine. I'm just using Canva today for us because it's easy and web-based, and we can all do that together. So let me drop the link to Canva in the chat so everybody has that too. Okay, so go ahead and also sign up for a Canva account. Now, one more thing. While you're signing up for all these different things, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Artivive, and then we'll have you sign up for the apps as well, or download the apps as well. So Artivive was founded in Vienna, Austria in 2017, and it consists of 2 parts. The Artivive app. So which is available for free for both Apple and Android. And this is the visualization tool that allows you and others to see the final AR product. And then there's Bridge. And Bridge is the content management tool where you can build and can create the digital layering that you want in your augmented reality experience. So Bridge serves both to help build the AR experience and to connect the artwork to the Artivive app. So first you build your experience in Bridge and you save it to the Artivive system. Then people can use the Artivive app and scan your main image to experience the artwork. So go ahead and now and take the time on your mobile device when you're finished signing up for both Artivive and for an Artivive account and for Canva. You're also going to use your mobile device to download the Artivive app from whatever app store is available to you. So I'll give everybody just a second to do that. And while everyone's getting things loaded and ready to go, I thought I'd share a quick example of Artivive in action. I see that this is available. Let's pop out and see if we can go to YouTube. Yes, we can. So I'll let this play in just a second. So Berkeley Arts and Design, the Jacobs Institute for Design Innovation, and the Department of Theater, Dance, and Performance Studies supported the production of an interactive playbill for Stan Lei's workshop production, Ago, using Artivive. Much like the Play Ago, this playbill is an evolving portal to other worlds, and users can explore the world of Ago more deeply by scanning the full pages in this program through the Artivive app. So I'm just going to quickly show you what the first image of the playbill, what that triggers. Oh, and let me quickly adjust the sound. So now we're optimized for video clip. Here we go.
Hi everybody, I'm Stan Lai. Come and see Ago, my new play and a workshop presentation at First Gym.
So pretty neat. We can just sort of simply layer different types of things over physical objects. Okay, oh, there we go. So on the Artivive website, now that you've hopefully registered and are ready to go with an account, you can click the login in the upper right corner, so over here, and then use the credentials you just created to access Bridge. So give everybody just a second to do that. So creating augmented reality art with Artivive is fast and easy. There's no coding or programming experience required. It's really straightforward. So if you open your Bridge account, you can click the Add Artwork icon, which is up here at the top, right between the Home button and the FAQ button, which is this question mark. It looks sort of like a little image with mountains on it, and then it has a plus sign down at the bottom. So that's the Add Artwork button. And when you click that, you'll automatically be redirected to basic mode for the Artivive Bridge app. And we'll discuss the 3D Pro mode in a little bit. But we'll start by giving your artwork a name. And you can name your artwork whatever you want. And once you do, then you can proceed with the creation of your AR artwork which only takes 3 steps. And I'm going to go back and forth here between a live demo and a sort of canned presentation, so bear with me on that. So on the left-hand side is a box where you can drag and drop or upload an image, and that's the file that's going to be the trigger image. That's going to be what you essentially hold your phone up to trigger the augmented reality experience. And this can be a JPEG or a PNG, has a max file size, so you want to be aware of those dimensions as well when you're creating that trigger image. On the right-hand side is a box where you can drag and drop or upload a video. And that's the thing that's going to be triggered by the image on the left. Once you've uploaded an image and a set video, simply click the add button down at the bottom and let the platform do the magic. And in a few moments, your project will be saved in your homepage. Now, there are a few tricks you can add, but these are the basics. And you can also use the chat box help that's available in the bottom right corner at any time. This is an AI-powered sort of tool. I think you'll get what you need mostly out of today's presentation. But if you have questions, do let me know, and that is always there for you if you need help. I just want to quickly point out one thing. So I'm going to jump over to my bridge station here, and I'm going to practice adding an artwork. Right, so if I wanted to do Krabby, you'll see why in a minute. But so here you can start to upload your images and your videos. But I do want to point out that the artwork info button here is quite important. What that does is that it allows you to create metadata for your creations that will appear for users to access when they're experiencing your work in the Artivive app. So you can see here that through this info, they can access the title of the work, the artist's name, description of the work, and be directed to your website and or social media pages that are connected with this. So if this is being used for a project, it can direct back to that project instead. It's really up to you. And when you're done, you can click done. This is rather, you don't have to enter something, but if you do enter something, you have to enter both the artist's name and the field. So if I just press cancel, then I don't have to assign anything to it. I just also want to point out a few more features. So next to the artwork info is an icon that looks like headphones, something like this. And selecting this feature will set the audio to only play when attached to headphones. So this is useful if you've got a gallery full of work and you don't want everyone's phones going off with sound if these videos happen to contain sound. So this is really great so that you can enable, people can see the movement if there's video movement, but actually not get the sound unless they happen to have headphones in. So you can control that element. And below your upload panel, you'll find these 3 checkboxes. And I'm going to quickly just pop back over here so that we can look at them. You'll see them down here. So the headphones are up here, and down here are these 3 checkboxes. And the first one allows you to use the first frame of your video to be the image that the Artivive app uses for image recognition. And this can be useful if you're doing something like showing a work changing over time, right? If you've added a little bit to a painting again and again over time and you want to see that transformation, then you could just go with you could use the last image as your first image, or the first video frame if you added that as your first video frame, or if you want to go backwards, right, rather than forwards, you could do that and use the first video frame as the trigger image here. Then the second allows you to make the background transparent. This is important if you want part of the experience to overlay over the reality that the camera is seeing. We'll play around with this when we get to using 3D Pro version, the 3D Pro version of Bridge. Are there any questions about this before I move forward? No? Okay. So we're going to actually start making something together now. Go ahead and open Canva, and you're going to create, I should say, an Instagram post, not and Instagram post, an Instagram post. So let's do that now together. You go over here to Canva. So you have, once you're logged in, right, you can create a design or you can pick from these pre-formatted designs. So in this case, I'm going to choose Instagram post. And now you've got this canvas that you can start creating on. And you've got options over here on the sides of what you can put onto your canvas. So I'm going to have us go over to elements. And I'm going to ask you to pick an animal. So we're basically going to do some quick animation. Using the elements feature, you're going to search for an animal that you'd like to make scurry across the screen. It was my birthday yesterday, and my zodiac sign is in Cancer, so it's represented by a crab, and I'm going to use a crab for today's workshop. You will want to pick something different, though, otherwise the image recognition software that powers Artivive will flag it as a duplicate. So let's all try to pick something different. You can type in the chat the animal that you're searching so we can avoid duplicates if you're following along. And I'm seeing a quick question in the chat. It says, is the image we drop the trigger image that opens the AR app, or is it the image they see once they use some trigger? Great question. We're going to create the trigger image and then the resulting thing that happens. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that, Angela, in just 1 second. So the first, let me come over here to Canva. Here we go. So this first image, right, I just searched crab, and you can use whatever crab you'd like. And actually, you should choose something different, a different kind of animal. I'm going to choose this crab, and this will be my first slide, and this will be the trigger image. So I'm going to leave that in the center because that's going to be the trigger image. But then I'm going to create the animation. So the reason why I'm using Canva is because we can do this quite quickly. If you've ever done any stop-start animation, we're basically hacking that. We're going to do something very similar to that. So we're going to duplicate this page using this plus sign up here at the top, and immediately we get a second version of what we had up above. And in this case, I'm going to just drag my animal to the side so that it looks like it's just entering the page. And I'm going to skew it a little bit using the rotation feature just to give it a little more of a dynamic feel. And then I'm going to duplicate again. And I'm going to repeat this process, moving the crab over a little bit and then swinging him around the other way and duplicate again. And I'm just going to keep doing this, moving the crab all the way across the page. And what's going to happen is we're going to export these together as an MP4 file. And it'll look like in the movie that the crab is scurrying across the page. So go ahead and do that now with me, with your animal. And I should say, you don't have to go across. You could go up and down. You could go diagonally, however you want to do it. Your animal could do a full 360 flip. It doesn't have to go back and forth like mine. Whatever you want to do. So take a minute now to just move that animal across the page. Flipping it back and forth. And we're nearly there. So once we're here, I'm going to move this one last time. Okay. Now I'm going to add a blank page at the end to really signify that the crab has moved all the way across and left the page. So once we've done that, it's time to export. So we're going to go to the download button over here. You can see we have all these different tiles, right? We're going to go to the download button here, and we're going to switch the file type that we want to export as. We're going to switch this to MP4 video. So it's all the way down here at the bottom. And then we're going to select the pages that we want to export. So in this case, we don't want to export the first page because that's going to be our trigger image, or like our trigger image. So we're going to just get rid of that one by checking off that box. It automatically leaves all the other ones checked. And we'll say done. When we hit done, then you can say download. And you'll see down here at the bottom that your MP4 video is starting to download. We're just going to give this a second. And now we have an untitled design since we didn't name our pages, but this is an untitled design here, which we can then open and take a look at. So I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to press play. And the thing about this file is that it's a little too slow for my liking. So this is like an animation, but it's a little too slow. What we're going to do next is we're going to move into another just editing platform to speed this up so that the animation is a little faster and a little jazzier. The way we're going to do this is, I'm just going to quickly go over here. I should say I'm going to use iMovie, but you could use whatever video editing software you want. This is a tutorial by the Viennese artist Lito that shows the first steps to creating an augmented reality artwork in Bridge by Artivive using the free tool DaVinci Resolve, which is available for both Macs and Windows. And DaVinci Resolve is actually used by a number of industries, but it is used in the film profession quite regularly. So it's a good one to use. They have a sort of free version, and then they have a premier version for those in the industry. But the free version does a lot of wonderful things, and so that's another tool that you can use if you don't have iMovie. I'm just going to use iMovie today because it's easy and quick, but use what you have. So just quickly show you what her looks like.
Hi dear artist friends.
So as you can see, and this gives you an example of what DaVinci looks like, what DaVinci Resolve looks like. But essentially she had a piece that she painted, and she took stills of the painting at different stages, and then she was able to bring them all together using DaVinci Resolve and create an animation of them so that when the final image is presented, that's the image recognition trigger, and then you can see this animated version of these different versions that pop up in it. It looks really cool. So what we're going to do in iMovie is we're simply going to speed up our little MP4. And let me pull up my iMovie now so that we can do that together. Start by going to iMovie app. And please feel free to use the chat or pipe up if I am going too fast and you need some time. Let me know. Quickly go back. You can see my versions of this here, but let's create a new iMovie experience. And I'm just going to jump over to my downloads folder and drag this latest MP4 into iMovie. So now I have this file, and I'm going to speed it up. So I select the whole clip, and I'm going to go first to this icon up here for speed, and I'm going to adjust the speed to fast. Now, already you can see that the clip has shortened because it's been sped up, but 2 is still a little slow for me. If I click here, we can get a sense. It's still not very dynamic. It's quite slow. So I'm going to speed it all the way up 20 times. Now the clip is very short, but when we play it, see if I can get it set at the beginning. Press play. Now we've got a little dancing crab. Very cute. So that's the first step, is to speed it up. The second step is to focus in on the crab. So we use the Instagram format, but ultimately we want to get rid of this black that's going to be exported in iMovie. So we got to crop to fill. And I'm going to just drag my cursor back here a little bit so we can see that in the crop to fill, I actually want to center it there. So the way that I can make sure is I place my cursor someplace in the center and then find the center of that frame. So now my crab will dance across the center. I press play. Now we can see it. Perfect. So when we're done doing that, we're going to go into Export File and say Next. And we can rename our file, say Idri Crab 1, and save it to our desktop. And you'll see the little thinking icon over here, which is telling me that it's exporting the video. So now we're done. Now we have our video. And we're going to go back to Canva for one final thing. And this is to create a trigger image that's the same dimensions as our film now. So going back into Canva, this time we're going to use presentation. And we're going to bring in that animal again and just set it in the center. And you can download this once more, just like we did before. This time, we want to set it for a PNG file that we're downloading. And there we go. So now we have our PNG. Once all of this is ready, we're now finally able to build our experience. So to build our experience, we're going to drag and drop those files into our bridge application. So on the left-hand side, you drag the PNG, the trigger image, and then on the right-hand side, you're going to drag the video you created. I'm going to just add this now so that you can see the reaction, because I've already why the video is appearing so long. Is this the correct one? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so you'll drag and drop those over here, and you'll click Add. By clicking Add, what's really going to happen here is that it's going to tell me that it's a duplicate, and it's not going to allow for it. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that if you're creating work with similar images, that you want to make sure that each work is different enough that those images don't get flagged as duplicates. This is also an issue if you use popular, like a popular image such as the Mona Lisa or something like that. If that's your main trigger image, then obviously there's probably going to be something in the system already, and that may cause issues. So keep that in mind. Quickly, while it's processing, hop back over here. So once you're back on your project page in Bridge and the experience is done processing, you'll open your Artivive app on your mobile device and point it at the image on the screen, and in a few seconds you should see a little creature move across the space. So it should look something like this. So basically I held my phone up over that trigger image and you can see the little crab running across. So now we're going to do this, but make the background transparent. So we'll go back into Canva and add a green background. So all you have to do is go back to those Instagram posts that you were designing and repeat the process. And this time you're going to go in, and if you select the canvas, you can, up here in the corner, you can change the background. So you're going to change the background to this lime green. That's what they use as the transparency color in Bridge. So go ahead and turn all of these into green backgrounds. And once you've done that, you're just going to repeat the process that you did below or before, and go into download, set this to MP4, deselect the first page, press done, and then download. So I'm not going to do this because I've already done it before, but what happens is you're able to then substitute that background, right? Once you take it again into iMovie, do the same thing. Let me bring up my iMovie so that you can see what that looks like. You're going to essentially do the exact same thing as we did before, this time with a green background. What that's going to do is it's going to allow for us to strip the background out, and only the crab will be visible, and that's the only thing that's going to layer over that experience. And at this point, we're ready to move into, or to try this in Bridge 3D Pro. So you can see here it labeled it as a duplicate and said it will not work. So because I already have a version of this in my projects already, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. So great question, Angela. Angela asked if there are other public triggers, or if other public triggers are in the system, can we find and use them? For example, if I wanted to use the Mona Lisa as a trigger, can I find Mona Lisa inside Artivive public files and use it as a trigger? So the way that you would test that to see if anybody has used it already is pull up the Mona Lisa on the computer and hold your Artivive app over it. If something triggers, then you'll know that someone has already created an experience for it. If it doesn't trigger, then you could use that image in your own work. So it does publicly store everything. I don't think that they may have a database. I have to check on that for sure, if you could search by the name or by title. But the fastest way would be, if you have an image already, to pull that up and just point your Artivive app at it and see if anything gets triggered. So great question. When you're here, we're going to actually, I'm going to move into Pro, but essentially what you would do is you just add artwork again. I can do this as an example. So Krabby, add artwork, and this time you would switch over to 3D Pro over here to switch so that you're now creating a different kind of artwork. And we'll do that in a minute, but for now I'm going to cancel because I've already got a version of this going that I can show you. So we're going to go here and edit this one. So in this case, I've brought in the original image that's actually already here, which is pretty cool from when we did it before. You can simply just switch over from basic to pro, but you can't go back from pro to basic because once you add dimensionality to something, it's not going to let you go back to 2D. So keep that in mind before you go into pro. But let me just quickly point out a few things about Pro. And this might actually be easier to do in my presentation. And then we'll go back. So Artivive is, like I said, also offers these advanced features on 3D Pro mode, which is available for you to use on your laptop or desktop. I believe you might be able to use Basic actually just on your phone, but for 3D Pro, you have to be on a laptop or a desktop. So while the basic mode's advantage is ease and simplicity, 3D Pro allows for adding more layers and control over their placement in the space around the artwork. In this mode, you can build a more complex artwork like a digital sculpture. You can go to 3D Pro mode by clicking that button in the upper right-hand corner, like I was just saying. That'll transform you out of basic mode and into this Pro mode. And please make sure that your browser is on full screen to see this option. If you don't see the button, just please make sure that you are working on a computer or a laptop and the window is maximized in size. Sometimes it gets cut off otherwise. So as with basic mode, you start by naming your artwork, like I said before, or in this case, we can just switch to the mode we wish to edit our first project in. Normally we would drag and drop the trigger image in, like I was saying before, but since if we're just switching it over from basic mode into pro mode, we don't have to do that. That image will automatically get pulled in. Then you can add up to 6 image layers and 3 video layers and incorporate size and movement into your AR artwork to give the illusion of depth. So for now, we're just going to start with 1 layer. So you'll adjust the position and rotation or scale of each layer by clicking on the 3 buttons in the lower left-hand corner. So that's over here. And if you've seen my Mozilla Hubs tutorial, these should look pretty familiar. And so should this position, rotation, and scale panel over here. It's quite similar no matter what 3D environment you're working in. So we're going to load in our green background video to replace the previous video. We place that over here. And then we're going to use the position tools to move it forward and adjust the scale to 1.5 so it matches the size of the background image. In theory, you could really make it as big or as small as you wanted, but I think it works best when it sort of mimics the thing or the trigger image in the background. We want to select the transparency box to make sure you can see through the original trigger image. So that's that transparency box here down at the bottom. And that'll allow us to then be able to see through, which is what's happening here, right? So it's removed that green background and we now see this floating crab in the front. You can use the arrows in the right corner of the positioning window to undo or redo. So up here, these will allow you to undo and redo. And the play and stop buttons at the bottom right corner allow you to preview what the video experience will look like. So you can actually play around with this a little bit in the space before you publish it into the bridge system. Once the layers are adjusted to your liking, you click the add button at the bottom or change button if you're already editing the project, and you let the platform do the magic again. So shortly after, it'll appear in your artwork collection on the home page, and then you can scan it and see it for yourself. So I'm just going to quickly demo this live so we get a sense. So I'm in the positioning or move tool at the moment, and I can just drag this layer forward, right? Since I had already set this to transparent, if I turn that off, right, it goes away. But if I bring it back, it's set to transparent. So, and I can move this really any way that I want to in relationship to that. I can move it high or low. I can also rotate it. So if I choose this as the rotating feature, if I wanted my to come out sideways and sort of come at you, I could do that. And then if I wanted to preview that, I could press play. I can see it sort of comes dimensionally at me, which is kind of fun. You can also use scale. So scaling things, you can drag these to make it bigger or smaller. I actually find it's easier to do this via this panel. But sometimes you want to do a combination. So anyway, once you're done, you can always press stop if you don't want to preview it anymore. And you can press change, and that will set the changes to your experience. Let's see. Let's see if I can preview what that will look like. When it's ready, open your Artivive app, and you should see something like this on the right, but with your own delightful creature. So it's going to look a little bit like that. Play that again. So you can see the crab going past, and if I move around to the side, you can sort of see how it's actually not quite directly on it, but it's forward from it. And if I were to have it go at a diagonal angle, it would look like it was coming even more into my space. So something to note are these stars that appear below your project. So this is not an indication of aesthetics or popularity on the platform. They indicate how well the image recognition will work on your image. Images that lack sharpness and contrast are going to receive lower scores, and it will be harder for the app to trigger your AR experience. So I've embedded a video here that will explain more about how you can optimize your work for Artivive, and it's a really useful tool for that. But basically, you want to make sure that it's high contrast and high sharpness, and that you're not using, obviously, things that are previously recognizable. But you can just minor shifts in contrast and sharpness can really improve this recognition speed time. And also, I'll just point out, whenever your experience is triggered, it generates a number here on this views count. So you can track how many people have actually experienced your work, how many times it's been seen.
How to optimize.
Okay. So one final thing I want to demonstrate is that you can also bring 3D files and animated 3D files in when using 3D Pro mode. So for this part, you can just follow along, and then you can try this on your own another time if you'd like. In my adult coloring book, I colored this lovely patterned crab. I then used Microsoft 3D Builder to transform the 2D image into a 3D object. And then next I opened Microsoft PowerPoint and dragged them, layering the 2D object on top of the 3D one. And I applied animations, and I'll open up my PowerPoint, bring that over here so you can see it more dynamically. So this is in PowerPoint, you just layer the 2D on top of the 3D. So these are two different things. And it takes any kind of 3D, or it takes a lot of different kinds of 3D files by just dragging and dropping them into your PowerPoint. So you can bring in, this is a .3mf file, which is what Microsoft 3D Builder produces, but you can also use FBX files, OBJs, PLYs, STLs, or GLBs. So you have a wide range of different kinds of 3D objects that you can work with in PowerPoint and animate in PowerPoint. So this is a really great way to just do quick 3D animations if you need them. What I'm doing here is that I apply the animation so that the 2D image slowly fades away, and then the 3D object of the crab would spin around. So I've added, you can see here, a transformation for the fade, and then a transformation for the spin. And that's simply under animations. You use the exit effects, and you can layer things in here by selecting which object you want to animate. Finally, I'll go to File, Export, and then so it's File, Export, and you export this in the format of an MP4 to save my 3D video. And I can bring this into Bridge 3D Pro. My coloring book drawing becomes the trigger image, and the video becomes the 3D animated overlay. So let's kind of quick do this together. I've got those files on hand, and I can show you how that's done. So let's get in the way. Change that. Okay, so I have one more artwork that I can create. So I'm going to create crab one, and I'm going to add an artwork, and I'm going to switch over to 3D Pro. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over the PNG of that original coloring book image. I'm just going to drag and drop that here. So now you can see it's a PNG, so the background has already been removed. It's just sort of floating in space. And then I want to add, so that's my trigger, and then I want to add to that the video animation that I just created or exported from PowerPoint. Grab that and bring that over, and grab and drop that here. And it's a little small for me, so let me make that bigger. That's better. And let me pull it out so it's a little more dynamic. It's further away. So now we can see, I could adjust it however I wanted, but that looks pretty good. So once that happens, we'll see a transformation. Press play. You can see my video starts to play of my 3D object rotating. So when we save that, I'm all done if I'm happy with that. It's going to take a minute to upload to the Artivive app. While we're waiting, we can just hop over here and see. This is what happens when you hold the Artivive app over. You've got the background trigger image, and then you've got this part layered on top, and it's playing in a loop. So you've set the layer the way that you want, and it should look something like this. Now, if we added a green background to that video, we would be able to make that transparent, so you would only see the frame and the spinning crab over the trigger image, which would be, I think, even cooler, but for another time. I'll leave it there for now. If there are any questions, please let me know.